come to more interesting discussions about how capital flows can be disturbing and how they can, and how policymakers can possibly deal with those. So the rest of the lecture can be a bit boring. It's not about applied and more interesting things, but it will really pave the way for the lectures that come. So regular and sudden, these flows can be the usual regular, or if you like, whatever flows that you have, you could average them out, and you can take that average to be the regular part, and this to be the deviation from that regular. So if suppose you have something like this, then you could talk about some kind of an average, and then and this as the deviation. Now here it's a very simplified story. It's simplified story in the sense that it is as if you have a line around which there are deviations. But it could be that when you are here, if one were to extend this graph, one may think that, well, it is going down, but it's a matter of time that it will go up again. But there can never be that certainty. So for all you know, it comes to zero, or you have outflows, which makes it an end of the story. But barring that bit aside, keeping that bit aside, it's a useful distinction to keep in mind. Now, the way I have stated it seems so very obvious that yes, obviously if you have an average and you have deviations around that, so what's the PV? But even this elementary distinction gets lost in many discussions of capital flows. Let me tell you the significance of this. If you were to forget about this for the moment and consider the simpler story of deviation, then it tells a simple picture, which is that, well, you could have the government intervention in some form, and when there are a lot of inflows, the government can buy the dollars, and when there are outflows, then the government can sell those dollars. Now, this may not work very well, very smoothly, and there can be some difficulties, but at least you have a way of handling. So, what we should remember is that our problem is with the suddenness part, and not so much with the regular part. Though some have problems even with the regular part, and I'll come to that a little later. Any questions? By the way, sometimes are you going fine? Yeah. Inflows and outflows. You can have again, you can have regular inflows, sudden inflows, regular outflows, sudden outflows, and there can be a problem with each kind. Let me take the outflows. That is what concerns the Indian policymakers most of the time. If you look at the RBI financial stability reports issued twice a year, this invariably gets attention. Which is that the Indian economy, you have the FII flows coming in, and they are the ones which are financing the current account. So, the last quarter, I think the current account deficit has further. If at all, the previous figure was not bad enough. If I'm not wrong, it's 5%. So
5.6% is it?
So 5 point something. So that's gone up even more. Why is that a concern? It is getting financed. It's not that the current account deficit is being financed by the foreign exchange reserves. The foreign exchange reserves are not getting depleted. We are importing more than we are exporting, but we are able to finance our higher imports because there is financial investment flow. So, and the foreigners are willingly investing. So it's not that, one is having to make a compromise and say, please come and things like that. It's nothing of the sort. But yes, there is a concern. There is a concern because some of this inflow is of the volatile nature. It's not all, since I am mentioning here. So there is FDI, there is equity, and there is debt. FDI is foreign direct investment. They are investing in our plants here. This is what gets most attention. Debt is still limited. In India, though it has been increasing. This is the part where you never know when the FII and if they do, that can lead to crash in the stock market, and also it can lead to considerable depreciation of the rupee, because if you suddenly want to convert your rupees into dollars, then you have a problem, and the exchange rate, you never know, it could go from 55 to 60, 65, 70, 75. In the short term, if you want to convert and the supply of dollars is limited, then there can be considerable depreciation. This can in turn have other adverse implications. So
it's like building up it's like building up the East Asian crisis in India.
Exactly. A very good example of that is the East Asian crisis. That was an important part of the story that happened there. There was a sudden stop of the inflows. There was also
huge amount of debt and
outflow. So you have a problem, and it concerns the policy makers. And when you have this depreciation, what is the problem? Well, by the way, there is a positive part also. So it may not work very well in the short term, which is that if the dollar becomes 75 rupees, then you can export a lot more, and that can increase your exports, that can increase the output. But there are various difficulties. The production capacity in the short run may be limited. There can be trade credit problems. So just because the dollar is 75 doesn't mean the economy will grow or that exports will suddenly rise. That may not happen. But what happened, and this happened in a big way in Asia, was that God forbid, but if the dollar will suddenly become 75 rupees, then there are a lot of debts which are denominated in dollars. Now, those debts which are denominated in dollars, they have to be repaid, and if the revenues of the indebted firms are in rupees, then for every $1, instead of getting 55 rupees, they would have to arrange for 75 rupees. It can be cases of financial distress, extreme cases of bankruptcy that played a major role in East Asia. So the sudden depreciation of the rupee due to outflows can be very damaging for the economy. So in that sense, the possibility of volatile outflows is really dangerous. inflows, inflows also have a problem. Sudden inflows. So if you take this part, what is that? Well, when too much money comes in, then instead of the rupee depreciating from 55 to 35, it could appreciate. Now, one would say, well, earlier I was complaining, well, the depreciation is going to create a problem, so what if the rupee appreciates? There is a different sort of problem here, which is why it's not the opposite of the previous case. If it was the opposite, then well, it was the adverse impact there, so this will be a positive impact there. But the adverse impact here is that if the dollar, instead of 55, suddenly goes to 40, you immediately have a problem with the exporters. And if trade is an important part of your economy, then it has a major negative impact. It's actually even more serious because the impact need not be short term only. If there are these sudden flows, then the exchange rate changes happen for a while. Maybe that after the rupee comes to 40, it gets restored to 55 after a while, once these sudden inputs have gone. However, even when the exchange rate is able to come back to the normal levels, it can have done its damage not just in the short run, but also for the long term. Why is that? Well, there are some industries which get affected, and once they go bankrupt or they have to close down, then it may be very difficult for them to ever come back at all again. This is referred to as the Dutch disease. This is the term used by the economists. And it was in the context of Netherlands. I think it was in the 1970s sometime that there was a sudden rush of foreign investment in Netherlands. And that killed some of their export industries. So they weren't too happy about the sudden inflow of investment. It led to problems, and the dust disease is what we are scared of all the time.
There's something similar to the flying geese phenomenon. That's a trade phenomenon. I don't know, there's somewhere I've read the book.
So in that context, this is more stable. FDI is setting up a plant here. So here also one should be careful. It is not inherently volatile, but to say that once it has come, it can never go. In an extreme situation where there is a loss of confidence, then you can never rule out even plants and factory being sold off and for the quantity to convert to be dollars. Lucas paradox. Yeah, okay. This I did talk about this implicitly when I was showing the slide, but let me make it more explicit. You recall I talked about developed countries being more capital abundant and emerging economies being capital scarce countries. Now, what Lucas had done, I think it was early 80s, he did some rough calculations, and what those calculations were showing was that the return on capital, the gap between the returns is very high, and that warrants considerable movement of capital from developed economies to less developed economies. And the paradox part was that there is very little flow actually happening. Now, to tie this up with what I talked about from Tirol, the dual agency problem, the absence of an international government as a referee, that could be part of the explanation. But as a stylized fact, we have here a point that there is, in theory, a need for a lot more capital flow. What is actually happening is very limited.
But also, if you bring in the increasing returns to phenomena, the new trade theory and all that stuff, then none of it may not be a paradox. If the returns actually are much higher in the developed countries, the thing is, if you, despite the paradox and all, that returns are higher, if you really see the most of the investment flows to US. Even today, the biggest attractor of foreign direct investment is the US itself, which possibly, if you, I don't know what is this model all about, if you bring in increasing in terms of scale and the network economies and all that, then maybe his paradox can also be theoretically handled. I haven't really, I mean, this is a new idea.
You're right, and there's again more recent paper on this. That's certainly true. But my sense is that that would take care of part of the explanation. But the abundance and scarcity being what they are, so large, the little flow, it's too little. So part of it could be the increasing returns to being where industrialization has already occurred. But I don't know if that will take care of all the...
Yeah.
One way to understand international finance and to tie it up with the earlier part on microeconomics of trade or pure theory of international trade is to look at international finance as simply intertemporal trade. Intertemporal is that you are trading, it's not one good against another at a point of time or within a year, but instead it is the US gives the money today.
You'll come back in a minute.
Yeah, okay. The computer wasn't at all.